Hey everybody, welcome to Clutchkick, the first podcast of hopefully many podcasts. I'm Rick,
I'm Sean.
and yeah, that's the first time you're going to hear our voices, and hopefully you continue to listen. So basically, I want to start off our show right off into it, and I want to go into introductions about us. So what that's going to mean is we're going to talk about ourselves, about what we're into as far as cars go, why we want to do this podcast, like what our philosophies are, what we've had, what we want to have, yada yada, etc., etc. So, Sean, you go first.
All right, guys. I'm Sean. I'm Rick's cousin, actually. I've lived in the Bay Area for a little over a year now, from Cleveland, Ohio. So it's like a total different environment. Um, my philosophies on cars, I guess. You know, I have a lot of respect for cars that are the best in their class, regardless the make or model. A lot of people like to you know, put down a lot of
They're like
make and
hate.
models. Yeah, and I don't know. My philosophy is if it's the best in its class, then it deserves the utmost respect. So,
Yeah, and so yeah, that's Sean's background. Why don't you tell him a little bit about the cars you've owned in the past, so people know where we're coming from with our experience, and we're not just jackasses talking.
yeah,
Even though
for
we are jackasses talking, just to be clear.
sure. All right, so my first car, I actually bought off Ricky before he moved to San Francisco almost 4 years ago. I bought a 91 240 Volvo with the world's shittiest paint job in the whole entire world. And I pretty much just paid him month after month after working to be as a cashier. So that was my first car that I ever bought. And then my second car, um, I ended up buying a 2006 WRX with like pretty much every uh, bolt on that an STI had of its year and an STI wing. So my second car was pretty much um, a fake STI nonetheless. But for my second car, I was super proud of it. And then before I actually moved from Cleveland to San Francisco, I sold it to some kid in Indiana, and we pretty much just broke even. He just bought for the rest of the loan that I had, so he got it for cheap. But what he didn't know is the car was like pretty much broken as shit. But there was no way he was going to tell me no after I drove the next state over just to sell it to him. And then after that, I moved to California, and then I ended up buying another 240 Volvo that was much nicer than the first one that I had. The paint was all there, so that's the difference. And then after that, I sold that and I bought a 2008 Chevy Aveo for pretty much Lyft purposes only, because I also drive for Lyft part time. And that's pretty much my car history.
Yeah, totally. Thanks, man. Uh, just a comment too. You're like 13, right? That's how old you are?
Yeah, 13 since yesterday. My birthday was yesterday, so I'm 13 years. I'm a teenager now.
Sweet.
I can drink beer.
Congratulations. So Sean's 21, just to clear that up, so everyone knows like a perspective of how old we are and whatnot. So we're two different things here. So I'm going to talk about my car experiences, which are a little different than Sean's, and I say that because I've owned a ton, but I'm also a lot older than him. So, um, I'm 29, and like Sean said, I'm actually from Ohio originally, and then I moved to California. So back in Ohio, I've owned my first car was an '81 Camaro Z28. Sean, do you even remember that car? Were you even
Yeah,
around? Okay.
yeah. I was like, I don't know. I think I might have been 7 years old when that thing came by. It was like a fucking car. I don't know. Car was not in the best condition by any means.
No, it wasn't. The floorboards had a lot of rust, but I bought it for 3 grand, and I was like 15 when I picked it up. So I'm not really gonna complain too much. I was happy. So second car, the one I actually could drive after I had my real license, was a '90 Mustang 5.0, and that thing was awesome. I loved that car. It was an automatic, which at that time I didn't even know how to drive manual well, so that's why I bought that. And I'm not going to sit here and go through every single car because I think the number's at like 24. But basically, I've had like 4 different BMWs, from the 335i to an old 635 CSI. Um, I've had Corvette Z06, which Corvettes, just to be clear, are some of my favorite cars in the world. I know that I'm going to get a lot of hate for that just because they're old man cars, but I owned an '02 Z06 with nitrous and a cam and all that good stuff. And then let's see, what else have I had? A bunch of shit boxes just here and there to drive around as dailies, a couple DSMs, a couple Evos, a couple motorcycles. Um, right now, what I'm working with is a 2002 Porsche 911 Turbo. So I actually absolutely love that car, and it's, Porsches have become a new favorite of Sean and I. I mean, I'm not new to the concept of Porsche by any means, but I never really dug them until recently, especially and not until owning one. Now that I've owned one, I'm pretty much all about it. So that's sort of what I'm looking up to right now, just trying to get another Porsche actually, or something else, older as time progresses. And then I use the Aveo every now and then, and I also have a sim motorcycle, which is just a 150 that's based off the old Honda CB250. So neither here nor there. The philosophy for me behind cars is I've recently got into exotics a lot, but not in the typical fashion. I like the older ones, I like the collectible ones, and then I am a generalist in the sense of, since I've had all these cars, I have respect for a number of cars, and I really love anything that's well done. It doesn't really matter to me whether it's a Civic, although I'm not a huge fan. But if the car is well done, the owner takes care of it. He's got his heart into the car. That to me, Sean, that to me is
Yeah.
really what makes a car. If someone's got their heart into the car, it can be a Volvo, it can be a Civic, it can be anything, and that's really
Yeah.
what
Like
really what.
I like the fact that like if a person has their car and they have everything done right and not like, oh, what's the quickest way I can do this? Like, I'll just do that for the cheaper. Like, if someone's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this right, I'm gonna like let the length of my car's life still be long and like high. I have respect for that. And as a person who's like, fuck it, I want my car lowered. Let's just take the springs completely out, and then
Just look out completely.
yeah,
Just straight shocks.
yeah,
Yeah, so that's really my philosophy around cars. So now that you guys know a little bit about us, hopefully that gives you, somewhat of an idea. Um, I want to move into a quick discussion about what the podcast is going to be. So what it is now, what it's going to be, where we came up with the name, yada yada. So we'll start with the name. The name is actually sort of a collaboration of me and Sean just coming together and trying to think about it. But basically, if you're not familiar, clutch kick is a technique for drifting. So you kick the clutch while you're pressing the gas, and that will send the back end of a car sideways, hopefully in the perfect situation. And it was just a cool name that we came up with. So honestly, the podcast doesn't focus on drifting. We might mention it every now and then, but we don't have a particular, desire to only talk about drifting or anything like that. So what we want to do with the podcast is all the fun stuff in the world. We want to have games that we play, because realistically, the reason why we started this is because we would just sit around and look at cars and talk about them.
yeah,
We're like, shit, why not share it with everybody? Why not get other people to communicate with us as well? So, um, we playing games like, here's 10 grand, go on eBay, find a car. Jalopnik does this kind of stuff too, but like, we want to be a little different eventually, but honestly, we're ripping them off a little bit, but we're going to discuss it. We're going to have callers come in. We have a lot of friends, not necessarily in the San Francisco area, but we have a lot of friends around the country who we want to call in and talk about their experiences with cars, have these same bullshit conversations like we have. Um, we'll be going on Bring a Trailer, we'll be going on Craigslist and seeing what cool stuff comes out. We'll see the new cars that come out. Sean tends to keep up better than I do with the new stuff that's coming out, but
yeah,
we'll keep it going and hopefully talk about new things that we see. But realistically, talking about our experiences, just sharing all the shit that we sit around on the computer and talk about with you guys, and hopefully you'll start to communicate with us. We do have a Facebook. I think it's facebook.com// Clutchkick podcast. And then we have a website, clutchkick.tv. Website's not up yet. So we're going to talk about some stuff in a little bit here. And if you want to see the pictures from what we're talking about, they're going to be up on our Facebook. So go like us, add us. And it might be a little early to start saying this, but go rate our podcast. Go tell people about us, because we're not expecting thousands of listeners, but we would like to have a decent community of people who want to hang out and talk with us.
yeah,
So
for sure.
yeah. Anything else you want to add to that, Sean?
Um, yeah, pretty much just like where it all started was just like every now and then I would bring my computer chair up to his desk and we'd both just like dick around looking at what's for sale on Craigslist and all that. If we were out getting coffee, cars always got brought up, and we just realized that there's like literally so many topics that we brought up, just car related, that we would just talk for hours. And we're like, hey, let's just concentrate this energy all in one space. So that's pretty much like, this podcast is probably like the best place to do this. So like everyone can hear it.
Yep, and we want to share it with our friends, and hopefully they'll get interested. And one of my friends really got me to like say like this should be a podcast. He's back in Ohio, and his is called Geekism if you want to check it out. But basically, he was my motivation to be like, all right, so he's doing this. I want to do it. Completely different topic, but it gave me the motivation to do it. Not to mention, he was the one who really told me you don't need thousands of dollars worth of equipment. And oh, disclaimer on that too. Since we're noobs, we didn't really spend much money on this. I spent like a little bit of money on a headset, and now a call recorder for Skype, but um, don't expect too much out of us if you hear echoes or weird shit like that. We'll upgrade eventually once we have some more money, some more listeners, and all that jazz. So want to make the best experience for all of us while not blowing 10 grand immediately. So one of my old jobs actually did that. They went out and they wanted to make a podcast, so the owner spent I don't even know how many thousands of dollars setting up a room, and it was amazing sounding quality, but I don't even think they do it anymore. So yeah, it was a sort of a futile experience. But okay, so our first order of business. First order of business, dude. The first order of business on Clutchkick podcast is Sean and I just got back from Monterey Car Week end. Not the whole week. We only went for Friday and Saturday, stayed in the seaside, but we want to cover what we saw, what we did, what we were interested in, and then what happened. So we went to the first Monterey Car Week together last year, but we only caught one day, and it was mind blowing, but it wasn't as good as this one. And so we want to review the notes that we took about what we want to talk about as it pertains to that, and talk about what we saw. So I'm going to go ahead and get started with arriving. Prior to leaving, Sean and I were on Instagram checking out the Monterey Car Week hashtag, basically is what it comes down to. And someone posted a Mercedes CLK GTR. And if you guys don't know what that is, it's like a late 90s, early 2000 race car that Mercedes built that, they made a few street legal versions, but it also was essentially a race car. It looks like a Le Mans car. We'll have a couple pictures up on the Facebook, but we were like, cool. Definitely have to see that shit. That's insane. I've never seen one in my life. Let's do this. And we're like, hopefully we can find it. Because if you've never been to Car Week, it's in a whole city, and the cars travel back and forth. It's only within like a 15-mile radius, but probably less than that even.
Yeah.
But they go around. So we're like, are we going to find it? Who knows? And then Sean and I are cruising along, headed to our first event, which is actually the one we're going to talk about after this. And all we see is a couple cars driving, and then I hear this noise, and the CLK GTR is coming the opposite direction, like full chicken, like foot to the floor, ripping. It sounded like a thunderstorm drove by.
It pretty much sounded like a hurricane needed to take a shit really bad, and it just fucking spewed diarrhea on the street, and it was just like so amazing. I was like a car I've literally never heard before. It sounded so amazing.
Yeah, it was beautiful. It looked beautiful. Then we did some research on that car after, because I didn't know the production numbers. It's one of 20 street legal versions. So in the world, not just the United States thing. And unless Wikipedia is wrong, then that number's correct. So that's mind blowing. I think there's actually one for sale at one of the RM auctions or one of the auctions this year, and I didn't get to check that out. But that was amazing. So that got off the weekend started perfectly, in my opinion, and it's really fun going to Car Week, just actually driving down there. The first hour and a half from San Francisco sucks, but then the last 30 minutes is awesome because all you do is see Ferrari, Lamborghini, old MG, Corvette Z06, Ferrari, McLaren, just over and over, just passing you. And it just feels like, is this real life? Because these are cars that people normally are like pining to go see at a car show or at a car event, and we just are seeing them fly by us without even thinking about it. So arriving for me, I don't know about you, Sean, but arriving for me is one of the funnest experiences because it gets you pumped up for it.
Yeah, like every when you're getting closer and closer, you're like, oh my god, like you're thinking, what will I see? What am I expecting to see? And it's just like it actually is almost always been better than what I have expected.
Mm-hmm. Totally. And this year is just the first of many for us now, we've decided. So let's see. The first thing we did was we went to the Works reunion. We didn't go to this last year. I wanted to enter my car into the corral, but I realized that we woke up a lot later than the corral was started, so step back 5 feet actually. The Works reunion is an all Porsche, basically impromptu meetup. It's more organized now. I heard it used to be more impromptu, but it's organized now on a golf course, and literally it's Porsche heaven. You walk in there and it's just all the different generations, all the different types, like race cars, Porsches representing their own stuff from the factory. You see all the new stuff, you see all the old stuff, and it was like we were blown away. We had never been there before. So we roll up there 4 hours later than you're supposed to be there if you want to be in the corral. So I'm like, oh, thank God I didn't pay the $40 for the corral because I would have wasted. And then we're like, all right, park on the street. And then I get flagged in, and the guy's like, oh, just go park in the corral. I'm like, sweet. Didn't register, didn't pay a dime, still want me to park in the corral. So we pull in. We ended up just parking in the parking lot to make it easy because I didn't even know what exactly the corral was. No one was guiding
Yeah,
traffic or
yeah.
anything. So we get out, we walk around, and then we just start seeing the craziest Porsches in the world. Sean was looking for a 959, but they didn't have his.
Yeah, I was my eyes were peeled for the 959. I've never seen one in real life, and it's like one of my favorite cars ever. And yeah, it's kind of a letdown at first, but
Yeah, but then
everything. Yeah, there were so many amazing things there that like it was hard to not be impressed overall. It was
right,
amazing.
totally, and I am in agreement with that. So in the sense that I wanted to see the 959, but everything else blew us away. So starting off on my list here that I wanted to talk about in particular, the new GT4. We'll start with that. So that's the Cayman GT4. I mean, that's a new thing for the Cayman. Everything up until now, the Cayman's been a car that's been considered like sort of like not quite a 911, and you don't really own one unless you were just kind of tooling around in it. But that said, secretly it's like one of the best track cars, and I've liked them. I almost bought one before I bought my 911, but ended up with not with it. But the new GT4 blows the old ones away.
For sure.
I mean, it looks amazing. It's got big front scoops, like, the front grille is huge, looks like it's sucking up all sorts of air, and then sending it to the back. And then big fixed wing like the 911 GT3 or the GT2, and then it just looks beautiful. And honestly, it's hard to even tell it's not a 911. I mean, obviously the body's different, but you look at it and you're like, damn, it
Yeah,
looks
yeah.
amazing.
Like almost like because the 911 kind of goes like from the back and slopes upward. This like it has that back of like that like a like almost like you see like in the 918 Spider. It's like the
Hmm.
918 Spider's weird cousin that comes around, but you finally realize at the family reunion, holy shit, this dude's been doing some really good things with his life. That's that's what the GT4 is.
Yeah,
First saw like the profile of the GT4, I was like, holy shit, man. The shape of this car is like so perfect. It looks so like everything about the shape of it is like so functional. It's awesome.
yeah, I'm into it for sure. I think big thumbs up from me as far as that car goes, and this is the first one I've seen. Um, Then I guess you could say we saw the usual suspects from there, but I mean, they were amazing. So up until now, we go to Cars and Coffee semi frequently in San Francisco, and there's always a P1, there's always a LaFerrari, or not always, but there is, and there's also a Pagani. But for some reason, no one's got a 918. Like no one brings a 918 up, and I'm like, okay, so we got all these cars, and honestly, out of those supercar hybrids or hypercar hybrids, the 918 is cheapest, and no one brings it up, and like there isn't one. So we roll into the Works reunion, and we see like three right away. Wasn't there like three there or something? There was like a red one or a blue
Yeah,
one or something like
yeah.
that.
Right when you go in, there was a four of the cars parked. One of them was a LaFerrari. Oh no, not a LaFerrari. We're talking about Porsche. What the hell am I talking about?
Yeah,
There was a 918 Spider, and then that was that GT3 that was like full blown.
the
That black.
RS, the
Yeah,
GT3
the RS.
RS.
Yeah, it was. Those were all parked next to each other.
That's
But
right.
there was a lot of 918 Spiders for sure.
Yeah, and honestly, though, I was getting this discussion with Sean too while we were there. The lineups there, 918 is obviously their flagship right now, but I think I'd rather have the GT3 RS.
Yeah, yeah. Seeing them side by side, they're both extremely appealing to the eye. But that yeah, that GT3 RS, that thing is no joke. That thing looks so aggressive.
And Chris Harris just drove one a little while ago on his YouTube channel, and we're both watching that. And the way he describes it, I mean, he's a guy who doesn't want anything but a 6-speed. And this car is in, it's got the PDK, the advanced PDK automatic, and he loved it. And honestly, when you hear that car rip, it's just like, and that's shifting gears, not a red line right there. So it's crazy how fast that thing shifts, and I think it's awesome. I'm not a huge fan of the automatics myself either, but it's going that way, and it's going to perspective where why would you buy a manual outside of just being a purist? Because it's always going to shift faster than you. It's always going to be faster than you, and
Yeah.
you have less to worry about. So I don't know. It's cool, but
Let's also give Ricky 10 points for
you
those
like that?
shifting noises. That was prime, man.
You like that? You like
Yeah, that
that?
was awesome.
And so yeah, I mean those two cars were impressive, and then we ran into a number of other things too. So there was a Porsche 916. That's what it said on the back, and I'm gonna actually Google this right now because I forgot to look it up.
Yeah, let me refresh that too.
So the 916 was that 914 that. Oh my God! It says it's 11 prototypes. Wow. Did we see something that was one of 11?
It's possible. I think there was two. There was that silver one, and there was a black one that we seen.
So 1916 was built to U.S. specs. What?
The more you know.
Am I reading this right now? 11 prototypes and with aerodynamic front and rear bumpers with a 2.4 from the 911S. Holy shit,
That
that car
sounds
is insane.
Yeah, that sounds exactly right. Because the first thing I noticed was, man, the body on that thing is fucking nuts.
Yeah, so, well, yeah, the more you know. Like you said, this is a car I'd never even heard of before, but it looks like a 914 on steroids. And the 914 is notorious for being like sort of a shitbox, that at the same time, really good examples are worth a lot of money. But I'm going to go ahead and say that the 916 is amazing. And now that I know what
Wow.
it is, I
Yeah,
want one.
but definitely someone came to my door and was like, "Hey, you want this car?" I'm like, "Yeah, dude. Thank you."
Yeah. And Sean was blown away by that car, and I think I am too now, especially now that I know more. So we saw that driving around, and we are like, "What the hell, 916?" Had to look that up.
The weird thing about it is like I'm actually looking at a picture of it right now. Like it is so unbelievably simple. It's so minimal in all the things, but for some reason it works so well. It's like every little subtle thing on there looks so nice.
I agree, and it's got those fender flares, and the ass end of it is huge. But probably because they threw a 911 motor in it, though. It's not the
Yeah.
same tiny little thing that came in the regular 914, which I'm pretty sure that car was. How big is the motor in that thing? So it's a 2 liter, 1.7, or yeah, 1.7, 2 liter, 1.8, 2 liter. So that's small motors normally, and you're going up to the 2.4 from the 911S. That's a big jump, or the 2.7 from the Carrera. Also, it says so. That's why it's got such a huge ass end. Well, that's awesome that we saw that. I feel special now, even
Yeah,
more
so do
than
I.
normal. What else did we see? We also got a couple cars that really blew us away that were customized. There was a Carrera RS, like a 72, 73 Carrera RS, maybe a 74, and it was all black. It was all black. It was slammed. It had cool wheels on it, and I loved that car. Do you remember that one?
All black.
Was it all black, or am I thinking of the wrong color? What car was that? The color was it red with black wheels?
It
Is that
was
what?
red with black
Oh,
wheels,
I'm
yeah,
an
with
idiot. Okay,
black
so
accents.
right, all right. So the pictures that'll be up on our Facebook will clarify this a little bit better than my stupid ass. But basically, it was red with black wheels, and it was perfect. It was lowered the right way. It looked amazing. It was well done on the inside. Like the parts matched it really amazingly. And I think that car blew me away more than anything else there. And there was also a blue 993 turbo, and I do remember that one because it was like a bright blue, and that thing
Yeah,
was
yeah.
beautiful.
The one cool thing too I want to add in about this is like I can't even explain. There were so many Porsches. Like I said, I posted a picture on Instagram and it says, uh, like there's acres and acres of Porsche, and it really felt that way. I mean, it was on a golf course, but like there were so many Porsches. Like they range from like the first like models of like racing Porsches to like the very latest of like saying like the 918 Spider. Like you just saw this huge Porsche like timeline from like people from all over the country. Like that was pretty amazing to see, like all in one place. It was so hard to take in. I got a headache.
Yeah, no, I agree. We are discussing about how stimulus and a lot of stimulus causes you to just get headaches as if you were, or and just makes your body tired as if you were just outside laboring for 3 hours, except all you're doing is looking at stuff. It's just a matter of there's just so much to look at. It's hard not to get tired, and like not in a bored way, but in a physically tired way. Um, the other part of that, specifically that you mentioned, is that the view was on a golf course, but it was surrounded by these massive mountains. And of
Yeah,
course, you know,
yeah,
if you're not familiar with the Bay Area, there's actually a lot of hills and mountains out here. And I was like, wow, this is like something out of a dream because of the way
yeah.
it looked.
The location was absolutely perfect. It was like perfectly appropriate for all these cars. It was awesome.
I have something written down in my notes that says Daytona. Did you write anything down about that? I don't know what the hell I wrote that down for because there's no such thing as a Porsche Daytona.
No, we wrote that down because on our way to go get food, actually, there
Oh,
was
right.
a Daytona that drove by.
I'm a retard. Yeah. Holy shit. Okay, cool. So, yeah, the reason why I wrote down Daytona is because after that event, I guess are we done? Are we done describing that? I think that pretty much covers it. You
Yeah,
guys
cause
just got to go see
yeah,
that.
'cause, yeah. After we, kind of summed up everything, we were looking around at all the odds and ends, like people's cars. We were heading back to our car, and we're like, we kind of wanted to go get some food because we had just been on the road for a few hours.
Yeah. So we ended up bouncing from there. So anyway, A plus to the Works reunion. You guys did a great job setting that up. All the people who attended, that's amazing. And I'm definitely going next year. If you're listening to this and you like Porsche, I recommend you go to that if you can make it out to Car Week. So moving on from there, let's see. We drove to Whole Foods, which is our go-to location wherever we are in the world, and we saw, yeah, a Shelby Daytona. I don't know if it was real. It looked legit. I know that, of course, at Car Week, it's more likely that you are going to see a legit version of that car, but that's more rare than the Cobra. And the Daytona is more beautiful, in my opinion.
Yeah. We were actually stopped at a light, and this is how we noticed it. A Ferrari 458, if I'm not mistaken,
Yep.
pulls up next to us, and Ricky goes, "Hey man, look at this douchebag driving this car." I was like, "Okay, let me go ahead and look at him." Of course, I look as soon as he tells me to look, and the guy's looking straight at me. So not only did I feel like a dumbass, but I looked at Rick. I'm like, "Thanks, man. Thanks for telling me to look right now." But anyways, he was actually trying to get Ricky's attention. He's like, "Hey man, what's that sticker on your window?" And Ricky's like, "Well, it was supposed to be the Nurburgring ring, but the fucking sticker was broken, so it just looked like a shitty line."
Someone tried to draw a circle and it got really terrible.
Yeah, like trying to draw a damn circle with your eyes closed. That's what it looked like. And then as soon as he did that, he was like, "Holy shit! There's a Daytona right there." That's when it came, and he was pulling off in the intersection. We heard the car, and we just watched him peel out in the opposite direction.
Yep.
So yeah, it
Flew
was
burnout. Then he rolled it, hit a house or something. No big
yeah
deal.
flew up
Whatever.
into space and then landed on the moon. So I'll never see that car again.
Yeah, but that Ferrari guy was funny, and I was pissed because my car just got rewrapped, so my 911 is wrapped with a matte black, and the guys who do it, just in case, I just want to mention that they're freaking awesome, and they come out and fix it whenever, and they do an amazing job. But they clapboarded the car, and I'm assuming during that process they kind of scratched off part of the sticker. I mean, no harm, no foul. It was like a $2 sticker, but I did notice it got ripped. So then I just went to Whole Foods and ripped it off the rest of the way and stopped messing around with it. Um, yeah, so we ended up doing that. What did we see? We didn't see anything at Whole Foods, right? We just hung out and ate some food. We didn't notice anything great.
Yeah, not the first time we went to
Yeah,
Whole Foods,
second
but
time there was some stuff, but
yeah.
then we packed up our shit. We got our food after that, and then we went over to Cannery Row, which is this old historic district of Monterey where they have, I guess it's a cannery there is what it used to be. Now it's like shops and looks sort of like an outdoor mall type thing, except fancier and older, I
Yeah, so
guess.
like right there by the water. So kind of think of like some sort of like surfy type town, I guess you could say.
Yeah, that's sort of what it looks like. And then we went there, and that essentially was called Exotics on Cannery. And what it was supposed to be is exactly what it sounds like: a bunch of ridiculous exotic cars lining up. Everyone's walking around, a bunch of kids. Which I'm going to talk about those kids in a minute. But in my opinion, this was an overgrown Cars and Coffee. Like it was intense in that sense, but it was a little bit slapped together in a not so great way, in my opinion. They had music playing that was a little too loud and didn't match the atmosphere of the rest of Monterey, because Monterey, like, it can be a little douchey from time to time, but realistically it's a classy, semi-classy event without being too douchey, and that's how I like to describe it, because I don't feel like I'm wearing t-shirts and shorts there, and I didn't feel left out. I didn't feel out of place. It's just a matter of it is kept to a little bit of a higher standard than, say, the car show that ends up at the mall on weekends.
Yeah, exactly.
So they're playing the wrong music for the crowd, in my opinion, and you're talking about ridiculous cars. So this is where we really saw a bunch of exotics that we were like, okay, damn, this is great. We didn't spend too long there, but let's see. First walked in, and it was like just 12 Lamborghinis in a row and 12 458s in a row, and that's what we see. And then we make our way down the road to this little parking area, and eventually we see a crowd of people, and of course, what the hell is this going to be? So it's a Pagani Huayra, which I've seen one here in SF, and I didn't even think they were in the United States, and I make it sound like, oh yeah, just a Pagani, but honestly, you couldn't see anything anyway because there were so many people licking it that it was hard to get
Yeah.
up to
They
it.
were sniffing every inch of it and they're just putting their balls on the hood and all that. It's just so like, I can't even fucking see the damn car.
Yeah, so it's cool and all, but then we started walking, and then we noticed that there was 4 LaFerraris lined up, or 3 LaFerraris, something like that. And we're
Yeah,
like,
3, something like that.
and that's one of my new dream cars. I think the LaFerrari is something I would love to own someday, and who knows if that'll happen. But realistically, I think that car is beautiful. It's amazing. I'm actually curious to see what Ferrari does next to replace it, because you know how it goes. They always have to build something and build something better. The next hybrid's probably going to be even more ridiculously fast, but I think they're amazing. Whoever brought them there, kudos to you. And the other big thing that we saw was that CLK. We
Yeah,
saw
yeah.
we saw the CLK GTR parked there as well, so we had the lucky experience of seeing it rip down the road. But we also saw it parked in the middle, and that was badass. That car is just amazingly beautiful. One of my friends was like, "That thing looks goofy," and I'm like, "Yeah, I mean, it looks goofy, but it's a race car. What do you?"
Yeah, it's a race car. This is a fully functional race car, and you'll never see this one again. So take it all in while you can, kid.
Yeah, exactly. Um, it was it was a cool car for sure. I loved it. And then they had a bunch of GTRs and all the usual crap. I mean,
There were 2 Varans at the end of the line.
yeah, 2 Varans. There was a 918 parked over there. A bunch of new GT3 RSs. They also had an auction, a mini auction, I guess, that's going on, and there was nothing mind blowing in
Yeah,
there. I don't
nothing,
think.
nothing totally insane.
There was a Porsche 930 in there that looked really nice. I would love to get
Yeah,
that, but all of those look really nice. So whatever.
a couple Bentleys and some old Rolls.
A boat that looks like it just got pulled out of World War One.
Yeah, I didn't understand that. It looked cool, but I didn't understand necessarily what the fuck is this thing.
Yeah, I
I
have no
don't know
idea.
anything about boats, and I don't know. Maybe that thing was like has super high value, but I looked at it, I was like, geez, looks like someone just pulled this out of the fucking basement or something.
That's what it looked like. I don't know. Did say boat auction too. It's just a weird thing to throw together. So, um, we didn't hang out much longer there. We ended up taking a walk down the road to where the cars were entering, and that actually ended up being more lucrative than just sitting around in the middle, because we ended up seeing 2 Ferrari F50s come in together, which I'm a big fan of the F40 and more so than the F50, but at the same time, it's an F50. You gotta respect for what it is, and it's beautiful. And there was 2 of them, so it's like, okay, sweet.
Yeah, I was gonna say the first time I've ever seen an F50
Yep.
in real life at all, let alone 2 of them coming in together. That
Yeah,
was
totally. It was crazy, and I was blown away by it. So we saw those come in, and then we also saw a big ass traffic jam because no one knows how to drive, and people were getting blocked out of going into the Cannery Row area.
yeah,
So there were cars
some
sitting in the middle of the intersection.
some old guy with his Lotus was trying to come in. They're like putting the fucking barricades up on him, and he's like, "What the hell's going on?" And then meanwhile, while all this is happening, there's of course, a Lamborghini owner down the
Oh
down
yeah,
down the way, and he was just revving his engine as high as he could, and he was just shooting flames out the back. I mean, that was pretty cool. I think it sounded really cool.
yeah. I mean, Sean and I, just full disclosure, there are not too into Lamborghinis. Like, I don't think that they're more than just cars to show off in and go. I mean, they're fast. There's no doubt they're blazing fast, but I don't think they're as good or as well done as Ferraris, and that's just a personal opinion. And I do have some experience to talk about it before you guys start hating. I autocrossed both a 599 Ferrari and a Lamborghini Gallardo, and the 599 was light years better in my opinion than the Gallardo. So um, I don't I don't really like Lamborghinis, but that one shooting 3 foot flames gets my stamp of approval.
Yeah, that was really dope. And of course, it was a Lamborghini. I would have liked to see the F50s fucking blowing flames, but
True.
they actually have a little bit of respect for the environment there. The
Yeah.
Lamborghini guy just totally didn't give a shit.
Nope. I don't even know if he's supposed to be doing that. Of course, he just wanted to attract the attention of the kids. So that's what I want to talk about next, actually, before we move on. Oh, and also, Sean and I were sitting down trying to come up with food, and then of course, out of nowhere, a guy in a Challenger just wow, what da da, wow, and then we're like, oh, cool, a Dodge, and then look up the road a little bit, and there's an Enzo, and there was an Enzo in there too, but there was an Enzo and a
And a
LaFerrari
LaFerrari
in
coming
traffic
together.
coming
Yeah.
towards us, and we're like, okay, it's cool to see an Enzo and a LaFerrari. So then we'll move into the topic of what Sean and I discuss like every time we end up going to a high-end car show is that what the hell is with the kids and cameras?
Yeah. I'm like thinking in my head, like when I first got into photography years ago, I found it so hard to like get equipment because it's so expensive. But like photography is as of right now is one of my passions. I love photography. I take photos all the time, and I have a website up. I'll throw the link somewhere so you guys can check it out. But I'm seeing like kids that are like 14 years old and they have like thousands of dollars in equipment. I'm like, where are they pulling this out of their ass? Like, geez, oh man, like I don't know, kind of pisses me off because I'm like, oh,
Yeah, and what I said was that like when I first started liking cars, which is like fourth grade for me. So what the hell year was that? I graduated 2004 minus a bunch of years. I don't know. So like late 90s, I still really started getting into cars and I started going to car shows. And the reception that I got from people in school was that you're a loser. Why do you like cars? That's lame. That's boring. Like, and I went to classic car shows because we're talking about back in Ohio. We didn't have Lamborghinis and Ferraris. I don't even think I saw my first Lamborghini and Ferrari in Ohio until I was in my late teens and I lived there
yeah.
for 25
I
years.
saw my first Ferrari. I think I was 18 years old, and it was actually on the way to Crocker Park. It was some he must have been a doctor because there's a hospital right over there, and he was pulling in,
Hmm.
and he had a Ferrari. That was the first Ferrari I've ever seen in my whole life. It took 18 fucking years to see a damn Ferrari.
Yeah, and realistically back then because I was into cars, people like were like making fun of me, like I said. But now it seems like these kids are like they go on Instagram, they post these photos, they get a million followers. All these kids are hanging out together, like they all look like they have a ton of friends and are having a ton of fun. And it was like, man, I couldn't even pull together 2 to 3 car friends to hang out with, and these guys got entourages and they're 15, and I'm like, what the hell? Times have
Entourage
changed.
is 15, thousands of dollars in equipment. I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, I'm a little jealous. I wish that I can get my hands on stuff like that and really have to like I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm from Ohio and it's kind of boring there.
Yeah, probably. I don't know. Well, either way, yeah, that's a good point. The car scene is different in California by light years, so maybe that's why it's different here. I don't know. So, all right, where do we go from there? We ended up going to eat pho, vegetarian pho, at this really awesome place in Seaside. Don't remember what it's called, but it was
Chopstick.
enjoyable. Chopsticks, you did it. It's
Yeah.
nice. That was good. Um, Stopped over there, had some food, and then we kicked it for a little bit at East Village Coffee Shop, right? That's what we did right after that,
Yeah,
correct?
East Village Coffee Shop. It was
Yeah,
like coming toward night and the sun was going down, so we kind of wanted to just recap on the day. So that was we've been there previously. The last time we came to Car Week, and we thought it was a good spot to be and just chill.
yeah, and this year we even back that up even further because I'm going to go ahead and say that this is the secret from Clutch Kick Podcast. The Clutch Kick Podcast secret of the day is if you're going to Monterey and you got nothing to do in between stuff and you want to grab a cup of coffee or food or chill in a decent place because the coffee shop is big, it has decent atmosphere, go there and sit outside because you will see things that you never would have expected or since it's car week, I guess you expect them, but not quite. So we're sitting there chilling, drinking our coffee, watching cars go by. It's like, cool, whatever. There's a Ferrari, there's a Lamborghini, there's a Porsche. Like, we're of course happy about it because we're sitting drinking coffee doing that. And then I'm telling Sean, man, you know what I didn't see yet was that McLaren F1 GTR. I think it was a GTR. It might have been an LM. No, it couldn't have been an LM. It was a McLaren F1 GTR that I saw in Instagram posts of people driving around, and I was like, man, I want to see that because I've only ever seen one at a Cars and Coffee in Palo Alto or something like that. And I was like, man, hopefully we'll see it. Drink a coffee, conversation turns. We're writing down notes for this podcast actually, and then hear something, and we're like, oh, what the hell's that? And then the F50 goes by, and we're like, sweet, there it is again. And then right behind it, McLaren F1, and we're like, fuck yeah, there it
Like,
is.
oh, there it is. Check that right off the fucking list because that was awesome. That was the first time I've ever seen that car, and I was like, wow, that's awesome.
Yep.
And the thing too about this coffee shop is it's like in the perfect location. It's right by um the Fisherman's Wharf, and there was an auction that was
Russo
going
and
on.
Steel, yeah, the Russo and Steel auction was
Yeah.
right there.
So there's a bunch of cars just chilling right in that area. So that coffee shop is like the perfect location. You're gonna see a bunch of variety of cars, like everything from muscle cars to like supercars, and everything was just really really dope. And then we're sitting there, we see this F50 go by, then we see this F1 go by, and then here comes this E30 M3 comes by, and I was like, dude, that's so awesome. Like we can see this like so many different varieties of cars. I'm like, I've never even seen an E30 M. Well, actually, yes, I have seen an E30 M3 down the street from my apartment. So I just fucking lied to you guys. Um, but it was still cool to see. It's still a really uh, cool car to see because you don't see them often.
And one sold for 100 grand this weekend.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
I mean, that's a big jump from what they were. They were 50, 60 grand cars for a while, and now they're 100. So, quick note about that. Car values are also something that Sean and I just got into recently, so we're going to talk about those during the podcast in the future as well, talking about like what the trends are, what cars we think we should buy next, what cars you guys who are rich and we're not should buy next, and we'll probably be dead wrong, so don't take it as fact, but you can listen anyway. And I think that the M3 going for 100 grand is a sign that the newer M3s, like the E39, or is that an M5? E39 is an M5, I think. Well, either way, the newer E36 M3 is what I'm thinking of, and the
Yeah,
E39
yeah.
M5. Those will be going up in price too, in my opinion. But anyway, neither here nor there. Talking about prices, we went to bed and it was hot, and that was the story about going to sleep in Seaside. After we woke up, we started our day out of the Airbnb that we stayed at. And by the way, the Airbnb um, was beautiful. Like Seaside is a beautiful community, and we stayed in this I guess house that had 3 guest rooms in it. And when you go outside, you can just see the water and see everything. It was a beautiful place.
Yeah,
And we ended up waking up in the morning and heading off to one of the highlights. Well, we thought it was going to be the highlight of the weekend, and it was the Gooding auction, the Pebble Beach one. Last year, we ended up in the parking lot of the Pebble Beach auction, and we saw an F40, and we were like, okay, this is probably and a P1, and this was when the P1 was still new.
yeah,
So
yeah, for sure.
that was like amazing to see that then. So we were like, this must be the place to be. We're going next year. So $40 admission to get in, which in my opinion is kind of silly because they're making 10% off every car that they sell, and those cars go anywhere from like the cheapest one we saw go for was like 100 grand. The most expensive one on the docket was like 16 million, which is a Ferrari 250. So like 10% of 16 million is enough to cover like a lot. You don't need to charge $40 for admission, but that was awesome. We didn't actually know that we got into the auction with that $40 pass. So we at first went to the viewing and we were like, all right, let's check out the viewing, and then from there we will, go bounce and do whatever we wanted to. We actually were going to go to the Concorso Italiano. Last year we found a corner that lended itself to seeing a ton of shit go by, and we're pretty sure we saw Jay Leno in his 4C go by. Do you remember that?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and the Nubian Puma or whatever the hell that big ugly blue
Oh my
cloud is.
god. When I saw that thing, I just like I was so confused. I was like, what the fuck is this? What is it used for? Why is why does it exist?
If you
How do
guys
you get
haven't
in
seen
it?
that car, you need to check that out, or maybe we'll post a picture on the Facebook. But that was last year. We didn't see it this year. I think because the doctor who made that car ended up realizing he built a piece of shit and it should never be
He
seen again.
realized he fucked up is pretty much what he did.
Yeah, and there's no doubt that that is the case. So anyway, back to the auction this year. We went to the auction instead of going to Concorso because we knew we could get into the auction. So we started off by just doing the viewing, which by the way was like a sauna mixed with a greenhouse mixed with hell with how hot it was, and saw a ton of crazy stuff. There was multiple Carrera RSs that blew my mind, going for over $1 million. There was a 959, so Sean got to see his 959.
Yes, finally. I was so like upset, like man, I didn't see it at the Porsche thing. I'm like, I probably won't see one driving on the road. It's just not gonna happen. It's just very unlikely. But we went in there, and side by side were my 2 like full blown favorite cars. Like if I could like kick someone in the face for these cars, these are the cars that I would walk up to someone and put my shoe in their face. It was the Ferrari F40 and the Porsche 959, and I was like, my whole entire trip was completely made right then and there.
Yep, 2 amazingly rare cars that were selling at this auction. So what else did we see in the waiting area? So when we were in the viewing before the auction, we also saw there was two 63 Corvettes with the split windows, which is one of my favorite Corvettes ever. So I was blown away. Not to mention pissed because back when I was younger, I was like, yeah, I'll own one of those, and I would see them on Craigslist for 45, 50, 60 grand. These examples are going for 110, 120, and they didn't even look to be in perfect shape. They just looked to be in good shape. So that's kind of sad because that means those cars are going to be out of my price range. Maybe not when like I'm older, but out of my price range for a long ass time. And I really would like a 63 Corvette someday. And then they had a 53, which is one of 300, the first year Corvette ever built. It's cool to see those because there's only 300 of them. That one was in beautiful shape. And then there was a few race cars, like Le Mans cars, and there was a GT1 Maserati, and then there
Yeah,
was
there was a Ford RS 200 rally car. That thing was
yeah,
pretty
that thing was
impressive.
insane.
That thing looked really nuts. I really liked that car. That thing looked really awesome.
I don't think that's another one of those cars that you're not just gonna ever see again. You're not gonna see one of those cruising around or for sale, likely.
Yeah.
So that car was awesome. I'm happy we got to check that out. And then
I'm trying to think what else was there that was actually eye catching. There was a BMW M1.
M1, yeah,
That was the second M1 I've seen. The first M1 I've ever seen was at our BMW dealer here in SF, which was
there was one at Cars and Coffee too. You weren't at that with me though, were you?
I think I might have been at work.
They had that M1 race car that is at BMW SF, and then they had it nose to nose with a. Actually, you know what? It was a black M1. I'm sure it wasn't that one, but it was another black M1. So there was the M1 race car nose to nose with an M1 street car.
Yeah.
That was cool.
What else was there? That
You got
was
anything on your list? I've covered everything I got. I mean, there was obviously it's the Gooding auction. There is a ton of amazing stuff. It's just a matter of what you're into. They had a P1, which is funny because at the end of car weekend, you're like, oh, P1, cool.
P1. There it is. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Yeah. What does that thing even do? Whatever. No, I'm just kidding. But the first thing that was there that was a lineup that caught both of our eyes was that Toyota.
Oh yeah, 2000 GT.
Yeah. Yeah. That thing is pretty cool. I mean, I've never ever seen one of those in my whole entire life until then, and I knew, I've heard down the grapevine, and I've done research that thing is supposed to be worth like a lot of money right now.
Yeah, they're going for $1 million. We didn't get to see it auctioned off, but they are supposedly going for the high 900s, $1 million range for a perfect example. So right now is the time to buy those JDM cars, from what I hear. Those older Toyotas, the older Nissans. Pretty soon it's going to be the FDs and the Celicas and stuff like that are going to trickle down into that expensive price range. We're not talking $1 million for those cars, but
Yeah, I can definitely see some people putting money down from. I mean, even a stock one. I mean, seriously, I would be impressed to see a stock FD somewhere. Like,
oh yeah,
so I mean, that makes it even more like special to me. As like, yeah, you find me a nice low mileage stock FD,
Yep.
That'd be pretty amazing.
And if you're listening and you don't know what an FD is, that's a Mazda RX-7.
Yeah, second gen RX-7.
Is it second? I thought it was third. FC
Is
is
it
second.
third? Oh,
Yeah.
is it? Okay, yeah.
Well, technically, I don't know if there was an FA ever. I don't think there was in the United States. But then they had the FB, which is that sort of boxy, roundish one, and then the FC, which was more round but not quite as round as the FD, and then the FD, which is obviously, in my opinion, the pinnacle of the RX-7. Although I don't like rotaries.
Neither do I.
Yeah. So
for reasons untold, but
yeah, I don't know. Spinning Doritos, man.
Yeah, let them fly.
And then so that covers what we saw in the auction as far as the viewing goes. And then we tried to kill 4 hours, so we ended up going to the beach. We ended up driving around, and then the one once in a lifetime experience that we had in Monterey, completely unrelated to cars. We ended up sitting down at what is a Lone Cypress Tree area, whatever it was called, and that was on the water, and we're just chilling down there in the shade because it was hot, and we were like, all right, let's just sit somewhere pretty for at least a couple hours, and we wanted to.
Yeah. I had my Polaroid camera with me. I bring it around. I shoot digitally, but I have kind of started a project on instant photography, so I thought it'd be cool to bring it around. Pebble Beach and all like the Monterey area is really beautiful, so I thought it'd be awesome to be able to document that. So that's what we were doing kind of in the meantime.
Yeah, and not to mention we didn't want to leave Pebble Beach because it's almost impossible to get in and out of there because they close all the damn roads. So everything is a right or left turn, and then road closed, police car, road closed. You can't go anywhere except this one path. And when we used Waze, our navigation system, it didn't know any of those, of course. So we're sitting there driving in circles. And we're like, fuck it, let's just sit down over here. We're only up the road, and we'll wait 2 hours, even though it was boring as hell. And well, it wasn't boring; it was beautiful, but it ended up getting tedious just sitting around. And then, out of nowhere, a guy walks up to us real quietly, and he's like, "Hey, man, do you mind taking pictures of me and my girlfriend?" And that's what we heard, and we were
Yeah,
like, "Okay."
I'm just like, oh yeah, sure. Someone wants me to take pictures of him and his girlfriend. I was like, yeah, whatever, you know.
So he hands us his Android television to hold up to our face,
Yeah,
and
his 55-inch flat screen TV he just pulls out of his pocket and just gotta grab both my hands, drop all the shit that I'm doing just to carry the phone over.
we don't like androids in this house, but it's all good. So he goes over there, and then Sean takes his camera. This is what we heard. We heard, "Let me come over here and take some pictures of me and my girlfriend quietly." He said this, and Sean goes over to take the pictures, and the guy gets down on one knee, and then I process in my head, he didn't say take pictures. He said, "Can you take some pictures of me proposing to my girlfriend?" And I
Yeah,
was
yeah.
like,
He had an accent, so it was kind of hard to
"Yeah, yeah."
understand. But I heard him say take pictures, so I'm like, oh yeah, just take pictures. I didn't really put together what he said, like I'm gonna propose to my girlfriend. I didn't really hear that, so I go to go take these pictures, and he gets down on one knee. I was like, holy shit, I'm witnessing someone fucking propose to their girlfriend. It was really awesome. So I took a picture with the Samsung 55-inch TV. So I'm like, oh, okay, let me do this. It'll be more logical maybe if I videotape this. So I tap the video um icon to like take a video. Holy shit. I didn't know that you actually had to press the big red button. Although it seems logical to do that. I thought I did it, so I'm pressing and I'm just facing the camera toward them and I saw the red button, so I figured, okay, it's recording. So like he's saying all this beautiful stuff to her, like I've loved you for so long, I want to spend the rest of my life with you, and I'm staring at him, and she says yes. Like he pulls out the ring and puts it on her finger. So then I go to press the button to stop it. As soon as I go press the button to stop it, I start fucking recording. I'm like, I literally just fucked this moment up so bad, all because of this fucking Android phone. If you would have came up to me and was just like, "Hey, can you take a video with your phone and just like send it to me via text?" I would have been like, "Sure, dude, let's do this." But I did take a picture of him on one knee, so that's what they're going to have to work with. If they hear this somewhere down the line and they're like, "Oh, let's hear this Clutchkick podcast," and they hear me say that, I just want to say, dude, I am so sorry that I like potentially fucked up this one-time thing um, for you. Congratulations, and if you want to get a hold of me, I will literally take your wedding pictures or your engagement pictures with a fat discount. I'm so sorry.
That girl's
But
gonna come yoke you up in your sleep, dude.
yeah, she's gonna come and she's gonna put that fucking knife to my throat, like you fucked this up. My fiance will kill you. Should be able to,
Exactly.
should be able to say that now.
Exactly. But it was a beautiful moment. It was cool. And another once in a lifetime thing on top of all the once in a lifetime cars. And then so wrapping up the night, ended up going back to the auction about 30 minutes early or an hour early, and we were like, are we allowed to sit down? Because there's a bunch of open chairs, and we're not bidders, so we didn't know if we weren't special enough to sit down. Ended up sitting down wherever, worked out just fine. It was awesome. Dude tried to take our order. We told him no, we didn't want anything, and then that to him meant we never wanted anything ever, so he never
Well,
came back.
actually, we asked him if he had any soda water, and he had no fucking clue what soda water was. He's like, "What?" So he's like, "Let me see if I even have that." So he like looks at this checklist of like 15 things that were available, and then he ends up saying something about lemonade or tea, and we're like, "No, we don't want that." Good.
Yeah, but it was funny, and like I was like, soda water, difficult concept. And then later, same guy, we ordered hummus and naan bread, which by the way was just pita. Don't know why they called it naan.
I'm not
And
even sure it was pita. I'm pretty sure it was just like
pita
Wonder
bread.
Bread that they threw on the grill.
Yeah, it might have been. It was good though. I mean, it wasn't good. It was okay. And I was like, "Can I get hummus and naan?" He's like, "What? Wait, what?" And I was like, "Hummus and naan." He's like, "Can you show me on the list where it is?" And it's like, "There's only 10 items, man."
And not only that, but it was the first thing on the list.
Yeah,
Hummus
it was
and
funny.
naan. And he's like, "Oh, okay."
So Yeah, we ended up getting that. And then obviously the action started and we started watching cars. We ended up seeing, let's see, we saw the first 23 cars because we wanted to stay for the 959. We saw a bunch of stuff that I had no idea what they were worth. We saw a couple Dino Ferraris that were supposedly overpriced go. We saw a Mercedes 300 SL going that went for 1.2 million, something like that.
Somewhere around.
Um, we saw the yellow Carrera RS go for 600,000, which was awesome and insane all in one. And yeah, it was a good turnout. I mean, there was no cars that blew our mind because in the Gooding auction book they tell you like what the values are, so nothing was like insane. I can say though that it's my first car auction that I've ever been to, and the dude who ran it, the auctioneer, he was awesome. He was
Yeah,
he was hilarious. He like kept the crowd going, which of course when you're an auctioneer you're trying to make money, so that's what your goal is. But um, he was awesome, and they sold a bunch of cars and they made a bunch of money, and it was cool to see the values of the stuff go up. And then we stayed for the 959, which was coming around 7 o'clock, I want to say,
yeah,
and
yeah,
it sold for 1.575 million, I think, and
yeah,
that was awesome because that's sort of what we wanted, except for the fact it made us jealous that we will probably never own one because not only are they expensive, they're also impossible to find.
yeah.
That's actually what the guy said
Yeah,
when
he said he was like, she's like, you'll probably never find another one of these. He was because they were bidding and they were fighting pretty hard, and he slipped in. He's like, you will probably never find another one of these. So keep going up. So
yeah,
that's what got it so high.
and it actually went lower than they expected. They said 1.6 to 1.8. I was expecting like, that middle mark 1.7, but it went for 1.575. So not that that's low, but
Yeah,
still
I
a
mean that
little.
car, they started it at 1 million. Like the bidding started at 1 million, which is
Yep.
pretty crazy.
Although the other thing about that is like we're sitting in a room full of people who can just be like, yeah, I'm ready to drop 500, 300, 1 million right now. Like, who the hell
Yeah,
are
like
you,
who
dude?
it's fucking pocket change or some shit. Jeez.
Yeah, it was
But
insane.
yeah. Also, another thing to slip in there was that what was the make and model of that truck that was like had like the full like wood interior like in the back and all that?
Oh, that Woody. That was a 48 Chevy Woody or something like
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
The value for that it was on no reserve, but the value on that was like 75 to 100.
25, 75 to 125, I think.
Yeah, to 125. Someone they started bidding super low. It started at like 30 grand.
Yeah.
He got it up to 50 grand, and he's just like, he's like, this car's in the market right now, 50 grand, um, give or take, blah blah blah. So that car sold for $50,000. So really, really under what they would even.
Yeah, that was cool. I mean, I think it's because that car doesn't fit the bill of that auction. You're talking about Dino Ferraris and Porsche 959 and Mercedes 300 SL, 190 SL Mercedes, like a 48 Woody panel van thing, while being cool and looking well done, does not really fit that.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. But it sold for way, way under than it was what it was listed. So that was pretty crazy.
Yep. Um, and then the other cool thing that happened there was that oh shoot, what am I thinking of now? Oh, the Ferrari 360 that had 3,600 miles. That was the first car up or second car up, and it just apparently happens at auctions. Like the first couple cars, no one wants to bid because everyone just got started. No one's really in the mood yet. So
Yeah.
it's going for 70 grand. 3,600 original miles in perfect shape, and the guy's like, are you guys kidding right now?"
Yeah, it's
Like,
just like this car is not going to be sold. Like you need to go up. Like I need this car needs money. You know.
yeah, it was silly because like if I had it started at 50 too. It started at 50 grand. We're talking about a Ferrari 360, which is one of my least favorite models, but it's a $50,000 3,600 mile Ferrari, and where it starts at 50 grand, we're like, what? I wish I could just put my hand up, but I didn't register. That
Yeah.
car would have been worth for 110 or 120 on Craigslist all day
It, it,
long.
it didn't even take long. They're just like, if you're interested, let us know after. They didn't even let that car sit up for too long. No one was speaking, so they just took it off.
Yeah, that's right. That happened for that one. I remember now. So yeah, that was the auction, and I actually want to wrap up here because I want to keep our format down to about an hour. So as a closing to that, I just want to say Sean and I had a freaking blast at Car Week, and I hope you guys had fun listening to us. You can catch the podcast hopefully every Monday is what we're going to go for. We're going to record on Sundays, upload on Mondays, and hopefully it won't be terrible. I think next week we're going to talk about the future of new cars and what they're going to end up being in 30 years. Like classics now are not going to be the same as classics 30 years from now. So check out the Facebook. That's facebook.com/Clutchkick podcast or clutchkick.tv as a website. We'll post our individual Twitters and stuff when we get them going up. And I mean, we could probably use our own, but for now, you guys don't even care. So we'll wait for later for that. So, and again, this is Rick.
And this is Sean.
Thank you guys.